Yo guys, what is going on? It is Invin here, and today what I'm going to be bringing to you guys is my top tips for the New World Dungeon Mutations or Expedition Mutations and how you can clear these more consistently. A lot of people have been finding these pretty difficult, and with good reason. They are pretty challenging expeditions. With the levels increasing, it does gradually and fairly quickly ramp itself up to be quite the challenge. So hopefully these tips can provide some level of guidance or at least reminders for players of all levels and skill gaps here, because even those that are pushing the late 7, 8+ ones still maybe haven't thought about some of these things. Now I'm going to go over as many things as I can think of here, but of course if you have any additional ones that I don't mention in today's video, drop in the comments below. Let's help and share the knowledge, because like I said, these are pretty tough, so all help would be amazing. And if you haven't already done so, before the video starts, make sure you go down below, press the big red subscribe button, and make sure you've got the notification bells turned on. I would really appreciate the support with that, and only about 20% of the people that watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if you're one of the 80% that isn't, do me a favor, go down below and subscribe. You can always unsubscribe later on. Now let's jump into this one then. So the first thing is going to be to get your gear score up evenly. Now if you look on the screen, you will see that I have Avoidment Helmet 610, Avoidment Chestplate 611, and then 600, 600, and 600 on these, but except from the boots are 597, and the gloves here are 596. As well, my weapon expertise are not looking too great. Let's be honest, these are not brilliant. So what I've done is upgraded the ones I've got there. I actually upgraded my legs to 600 yesterday, so they're now up there. I need to then get my gloves and boots either upgraded or a better pair of each. And then my weapons, you can see I've got a 600 Warhammer here. I need to either get a 600 Great Axe or indeed upgrade that one as well. And then I want to get those all to 610, so I've done the two that I had at the maximum gear score, obviously the Void Bent spawning at 600. Got my expertise up to 600 and that, got those to 610 or 611 on the chest plate, so one too many. And that is the first threshold that I am moving towards with all of my gear, so that I can then get everything up gradually and to a nice place where I'm able to progress. Now the reason for doing this is because every time you increase the level, the overall gear score that you need or is required, as such, it says recommended level, does go up by an increment of 2 or 3 gear score. Now it's really important that you do this across the board if and when you can, mainly because the mobs scale off the damage factors that they'll do in terms of what your overall gear score is. So total, you can see mine is at 597. When I'm up to like level 3 there, where it's 605 or 607 recommended, that is almost 10 above where I am now, and that does make a big difference, especially with the weapons. You know, the Warhammer I've got here is pretty good. It does do a lot of damage. I'm hitting, you know, 4 to 5, sometimes 6,000 with the empowers per attack on enemies with the heavy attacks there. And obviously backstabs or crits or whatever. But this could be doing way more if I was able to get this up to 610, etc. But I'm still working on my expertise for that one, so that is where it's come back to bite me, switching out weapons for these ones. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are in the same situation. So as and when you can, make sure you are leveling out those gears that you have got up to expertise 600 and you have a 600 plus item or 590 plus. Get it up to 610, then 615, 620, and eventually 625, as that will help you to clear these more consistently. Now, on top of this, consumables are a massive, massive thing. Obviously, infused health pots, infused regen pots, especially if you've got something like this earring here where you've got purifying toast, which is every time you drink a regeneration potion, you actually lose 1 debuff. That is a really, really strong perk for these mutations and really helps out, especially when you get the elemental stuff stacking on top of you. It doesn't work with things like Scylla's Ren stacks if you pick up the orbs, obviously, but it does work for pretty much everything else, so it's a really, really good one to have. Then, something which I forgot about, and I think a lot of people have forgot about, we have the Void mutation on in Lazarus at the moment. I'm aware some other people, you guys have let me know in the comments, some of you got Hellfire, some of you got Ice one, so different things knocking about, but the Void absorption or the Fire absorption or Ice, whatever the one that you've got is, absorption potions are really, really good. It is 15% for 30 seconds, so it's not massive, and these, of course, you know, only last for a small period of time and then have a cooldown. But if you do get stuck in something where you think you might die, or it's getting a little bit dicey, close to killing the boss, maybe you've lost a player, or it's starting to do some big damage because some of the mechanics, like the Scylla Ren stacks, when you stack those up, you might want to pop one of these. It does only work against that element of damage, though, so, for example, in the boss fights, it's not that useful. Some of the mini bosses, though, this is really important and can save you a lot of health loss when you pop these, so definitely use them. Obviously, you want to bring your tier 5 food just to spam heal with. That will give you healing until you hit again, and it will give you a gradual healing every 2.5 seconds for 1% of your health for 40 minutes. So it's just gradual health coming back into the player, which is always helpful. Then also something which you really, really need in every mutation that you do is honing stones. You might not have powerful ones that I have here because these are very expensive on some servers. If you have, amazing. If not, the strong ones are still only 1% less good than these, so they are still very worth using. And of course, you certainly want your stat boosted food, whether it's your roasted new fish like I've got here, which is plus 40 strength, or something like your carrot cake, which is slightly cut off by my camera, but you can see the stats underneath, 24 strength and 16 corn. Whatever you need to get, split stat or full stat, to get yourself in a really good position for these is absolutely paramount. You want a decent amount of health and a very good amount of damage so you can get survivability and DPS down to clear these in time. Also, with this, I've found gemstone dust to be really useful. I'm using the tier 4 for inside the dungeons and for PvP at the moment, because the tier 5, not only is it used for crafting of the keys, but it is very, very high demand because of the lack of gems that people are buying up everything to try and, you know, spec out their set to what they want it to be. So the tier 5 has gone through the roof, at least on my server, and I'm sure for a lot of you guys as well. So take the tier 4 in. This does a really good job, and it's a similar effect to the absorption potions. Pop it whenever you're feeling low, or you're feeling like you might get a little bit too much damage coming onto you. It does block and give you resistance to elemental damage, and that's really good. It's 25% on the tier 4s for 20 seconds, or until 12 amounts of damage are received. So it's actually a really good amount and can again give you some great survivability. The final thing here that you absolutely need is, of course, the coating that is relevant to the dungeon. Again, this one is slightly cut off, so if I just put it into my hotbar here, you'll be able to see it a little better. And it says that it applies to the current drawn weapon, gives a maximal bonus. This is obviously the tier 5 infused one. Damage against ancients, which is Lazarus Instrumentality, lasts for 40 minutes or upon unequip, whichever comes first. Now, this can be applied to both of your weapons, and you can switch between them. That doesn't mean unequip. Unequip means taking it from there into your inventory. So I would recommend taking 2, putting it on both weapons, and then going for gold with that, because it is actually very, very useful. And on top of that, if you've got things like Ancient Bane, for example, for Lazarus, or Corrupted Bane for Dynasty, and of course Angry Earth Bane for Garden of Genesis, paired with the coatings, you're doing a ton more damage, and it's really, really useful, so you certainly want to be taking advantage of that. Now, another really important thing when you're going into these dungeons is going to be your team composition. You want to make sure that you've got the right amount of Rens, the right amount of Sunders, the right amount of Empowers between your team. So a couple of people using a Void Gauntlet, you want someone with a Spear Rend, someone with the Sundering Shockwave, you want people obviously with the healing staff, and again with the Void Gauntlet you can get some off heals as well if people have that ability. You've then also got things like your Poison Shot with the bow, where you're going to do dots. Now bear in mind with these, some of them do trigger the elemental attacks, which is where every 4th hit triggers a little mini AoE on the player that hits it. So again, if you put in some stacks on things like, you know, your Oblivion with the Void Gauntlet can sometimes trigger it, and as well as Poison Shot can as well. So do be aware of that. They can trigger these and make you have to move a lot more often, but they do a great amount of damage. So spreading out these things across your team, making sure you've got the right amount of team weapon buffs, enemy debuffs, etc., is going to be really important. So make sure that you sort of plan that with your team before you go in. Now the next thing is going to be knowing how the scoring works, i.e. what you need to kill, so how many mobs you need to kill, how many named enemies you need to kill, what time limit you've got, how many respawns you've got, etc. And this can all be found by going over the timer at the top. You can either press enter or tab or something and hover over the timer at the top. You can do this before you start the run, and you can do it once you're in there, and it will hover down a menu that tells you you've got however many out of 1 wipes, which is usually 0. Respawns usually is 3. And then you've got things like enemies killed. So again, you're looking at about 60. Named enemies killed, usually about 8. And then areas time completed, 35 minutes, stuff like that, where you can go through and check how you need to do it. Now, if you get within all of them, obviously you're well into gold, but you can easily still get gold even with maybe a respawn and a couple of minutes extra time, or no respawns and 3 or 4 minutes extra time, which leads nicely onto my next tip, which is prioritize survivability over your DPS. If this means that you have to attack and dodge every other attack, so you're attacking, dodging every single time, then do it. If that's going to keep you alive, that's what you need to be doing, because obviously the more time you are physically there and alive, even if you're dodging, you're going to be doing more DPS than someone that's dead on the floor waiting for a res, because obviously you don't want to respawn. That affects your timer, so you're going to be sat on the floor for a long while. So making sure that you have got a very, very decent survivability build, and something where you knowing how to dodge, knowing when to dodge is going to be really important. And of course, the more of these you do, you will get attuned with how this works. But this is going to be your most important thing, and in turn that will get your DPS up. And again, if you take 36, 37, 38 minutes, you can still easily get a gold with that if you've got no wipes, which is the main thing that you need to take care from there. Now, another thing here, the elemental gems like this void protection one here are decent, but some of the other ones that provide just a physical damage absorption, elemental and physical damage absorption, etc., are also really, really good. And when you're talking about what gems you got on your weapons, again, these are decent when you do go for things like, nature versus void or whatever. But for me, I've really enjoyed and found more beneficial to use, for example, here, diamonds, where they give you plus 15% damage and outgoing healing at full health. Most of the time you'll be at full health because you've got a healer with you at all times. So keeping yourself, again, dodging around, making sure that you're at full health to get this extra damage is really, really important. And it does make a massive difference. So looking at diamonds, looking at gambits, onyxes, whatever you want to use, these are all really, really good. And for my opinion, better than the elemental gems you can put in the weapons there specifically. The final thing here then is going to be save any attuned weapons or the weapon shard craft mods that you see here. So Abyssal Attunement is the one I've got, which attacks deal a 15% weapon damage as void. Now, right now they're not exactly the best thing to get because obviously a lot of the enemies in there have void absorption damage. So if you put this on a weapon, the extra damage you do is not going to be that helpful, but it is still very, very good because the ones that don't have it, you do a lot extra. 15% every 2 seconds is really, really good. But more importantly, next time that this goes against a different mutation, so you get a fire, an ice, or a nature one, this will be really, really good because the enemies don't have that void absorption, meaning that 15% extra damage is going to just be a pure DPS increase, which is going to be amazing. So make sure you keep hold of these, especially if you're lucky enough to get any weapon drops with it already on. Keep hold of them because they are going to be very useful, even if they're not useful to the current elemental mutation you have right now. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope you have enjoyed and I hope you found this video useful and informative. I tried to bring you guys some of my best tips and tricks, but like I said at the beginning, guys, if there is something that you think that are really important for tips and tricks on how people can do better in these mutations that I haven't included in today's video, do make sure to drop it in the comments below. It'd be much, much appreciated. Let's share around the knowledge, help each other and myself out with all of these mutations and see how we can clear these a lot better and more consistently. And of course, these are proving to be a great challenge, so all of the help and advice would be amazing. Drop what you've got in the comments below and hopefully this video will help you out with that. Other than that, guys, that is going to be it for today. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your time, and I will catch you again tomorrow with a brand new New World upload. Take care, guys, and peace.